started out playing guitar, actually listening to guitar and bass and drums because my dad is a professional bass player. He's played with guys like Bo Diddley and Johnny Winter and a lot of blues, a lot of soul, country, rock and roll. So I grew up listening to from everything from Otis Redding to Deep Purple, or Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin to Aretha Franklin. So my dad just basically, I tagged along to his gigs whenever they were around, and would watch him play bass. He started me out on a 1962 Fender P bass, and quickly I heard like Purple Haze and Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix, and I decided that I wanted to pick the guitar up that was in the corner of the house that had just been laying there, which was like a 1966 Hagstrom. And it was just cool. There was something about it that I was kind of drawn to. And so at that point, I don't know how old I was still. I mean, I decided I wanted to go to a music school when I was 11, so I must have been like 5. I heard, I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan on Austin City Limits when I was probably 8 years old. And I remember picking up the guitar and just kind of watching him do stuff. And, he was just playing at that point, it was the craziest blues stuff that I had ever seen, and guitar in general. And I just took to it immediately. So I remember just kind of acting like I was him and just envisioning that I could do that one day. And I remember I showed interest in it, and my dad basically took some time out and got the guitar out and asked me what I wanted to learn. And so he started teaching me just rudimentary guitar stuff like Pipeline by the Ventures, Walk Don't Run, Day Tripper by the Beatles. I remember one time my brother, when I started to kind of get more serious about guitar, we were jamming together, and we were probably like 10. I was probably like 12. He was 9 or 10. And I was playing with him, and he just stops, and he's like, "Chris, you got to really do something about your timing. You can't play with me. You're not listening to me." And I was like, "Dude, I guess I got to go and get a metronome or something." And I remember just thinking, I got to really kind of tighten up. And I think I was seriously just a little kid at that point. As much as my dad had told me not to do it, because he'd been, the road it can be hard. It can be very rewarding, but when you first start out doing it, it's very difficult. And he said, basically, I hope you know what you're in for, and I'm completely cool with you doing it. And they supported me. I decided I wanted to go to Berklee College of Music in Boston when I was 11. Obviously, I couldn't go when I was 11, so I had 7 or 8 years worth of practicing and hoping and dreaming. And so they took as much money as they could and helped me go there. And so I went there, and I minored in guitar performance, and I majored in music business management, of all things. I got to study with some of the greatest teachers, some of the really amazing bebop players, things that I still can't play, things that I'm kind of, I'll look through my books and realize that there's a reason probably why I got a C in that class, because it's just guitar and music in general is just something that's ever evolving. So for me, it's just going to that school was great, but I think the biggest learning lesson I got was when I moved to Nashville, which was you get this kind of mindset about being in music school. Like I'm the guitar player, like I went to Berklee, and I got to Nashville, and I sat down and watched a couple guitar players as soon as I got into town, and I just completely humbled, and thankfully I was humbled that quickly. But I started out kind of just trying to get a gig and figure out what I wanted to do, and I lucked out and I got into a music video for an Arista Records artist, and I met 3 or 4 musicians who ended up being guys who are still doing, ended up on bigger gigs, and we exchanged numbers and kind of went through gigs, kind of small local gigs all the way up to one guy gets a new gig and he's finally on an artist gig, and then they call you and you hope that you can do the right job, you know. I think when I first started doing the sideman thing, I wanted to play, you know, the big venues. I wanted to play Red Rocks. I got to play Red Rocks. I wanted to play at a stadium, and like we're touring with Kenny Chesney right now, and playing all kinds of stadiums, which is kind of mind blowing. And it's not, you know, being the opening act, you're not always in a packed stadium, but it's still cool to go to Heinz Field or something like that and just look out. And I mean, it's huge, but I think the coolest goal is to just keep doing that and to refine my playing, to be among all my peers who I think some of the guys that are my friends are the best players I've ever met, and to just kind of not necessarily compete with them, but keep bringing each other up as players, because that's kind of what we've done for the last 8 years or so together. The first time I ever heard or saw McPherson, I was doing a recording session in Nashville. Basically, I was with a bunch of pit musicians. We were recording a musical for a playwright named Ted Swindley, who did this thing called Always Patsy Cline at the Ryman. And I was recording electric and acoustic, and at that time I had another brand which I will remain unnamed at this point, and I was tracking an acoustic part, and my buddy Patrick had a McPherson. He was doing fiddle and acoustic, so there were times that we were both doing acoustic tracks in different parts and different registers. So I'd be doing something up high, he'd be doing something down low, and he heard my guitar and he was like, well, it sounds good, but have you ever heard of McPherson? And so I walked into the ISO room and I was listening to him play, and I was like, wow, that thing sounds so balanced, and the EQ on it. Some guitars, the EQ spectrum is just all over the place, or they're too boomy, or they're not boomy enough, or they're too chimey, and this thing sounded just so perfect that it's so hard to explain until you play one or hear one in person. So he goes, dude, why don't you just put that guitar down and track the session with this guitar? And so I did, and everybody loved it. And then I had McPherson on the brain, you know. And after things got going, I got to develop a relationship with McPherson. It just became, it was awesome. I don't know. You got to play one to feel it. To see it on a video is one thing, but to experience it in person is just, you'll see.